Ladies and gentlemen, this is Bob Cline. I'm really excited today to be able to interview a gentleman that I've known quite a long time. I met him in some very unusual circumstances. We're going to talk about that. But he's known as the mentor to millions. He's created or helped people create $1 million-a-year incomes, 44 people. Many of those people I personally know. He's a tremendous individual. I know personally a number of the people that he's helped, and they would say the same thing about him. But I'm going to be interviewing Mr. Robert Hollis. Robert, are you with us today?
I definitely am, Bob. Thank you very much. I'm really excited about doing an interview with my very, very best friend for 20-plus years.
Well, thank you very much, Robert. In fact, that centers around my first question for you. We have such an incredible system now that you've developed, but it revolves more around your personal style. And if I could just take you back to when we met, I know that you probably will recall, the circumstances were a little unusual because I sought you out. But you say things like this. You say, if I can do this, anyone can do this. And yet when I met you, I don't know if you'll recall this or not, but you did not like me very much. Do you recall circumstances? Maybe you could describe it a little bit, and then tell me why you decided to help me.
Well, I remember that you seeked me out. We were within a telecommunications company at the time. And I remember what you did is you seeked me out because you heard that I was using nonprofit organizations. And I was basically going to them and saying, hey, listen, you know what? If you could get all your people that follow you, your parishioners, your whole community, the people that come to your church or community, if you could get them all to switch over their long distance, then a percentage would go to that church. Well, then I started using it on a lot of nonprofit organizations. And I know your heart, you're the kind of individual that wanted to help people, so you immediately heard that I was doing that, and you seeked me out. I was living in Aliso Viejo, California at the time. And I remember that as you and I started talking, you just are one of those individuals that are very tenacious, you're very persistent, and that's one of the things that I love about you. And I just remember that it wasn't that I disliked you, it's just that you wanted all the answers as fast as you can, as quick as you can. And so I just remember the incidents that was more impacting to you than I. But we were at an airport, and you seen me coming after a convention. And what you seen is you seen me sit down after an entire week in a convention, working hard, speaking, all that things. And then you came up to me and you said, hey, Robert, I just want to let you know, you probably were even calling me Mr. Hollis at the time, and you said, Mr. Hollis, I wanted to let you know that I talked to the ticket agent, and I asked them to reassign me to a seat next to you. And I said, listen, if you want to continue to be my friend, you'll go have them change it back. And the only reason, I was just tired. I just was really, really tired, and I used that as sort of a downtime, to just relax and, after spending a whole weekend. So it wasn't that I ever disliked you. In fact, I never ever felt that about you. I love your heart, and I love where you're coming from, but that was a pretty funny incident.
Yes, it really set me back, and it made me think a lot about after it happened, about who I was, and it really started me on a different route. It really did. So I've been grateful to you all these years because you were willing to help me even when I was maybe rude or intrusive, and I know that you're very, very kind to people, and I really appreciate that. You also have another saying, and I wanted to ask you about this.
Sure.
It comes out in a lot of different things. You say documentation beats conversation. Can you explain what that means to you and why it would be important for the average person to understand that?
Well, one of the things that I found out, and it was for my first billionaire mentor, his name is Roger Penske. And talk about documentation beats conversation. Think about this man. He's won in virtually every motorsports out there. Another thing I've said about him is that, he set out to have the #1 car dealership in every make and model. I mean, that's pretty crazy from a guy that started out washing cars at a dealership and then one day wanting to buy that dealership. And he still today has the world's largest and most selling car distributorship ever. And I think it's Longo Toyota. So when I was seeking out a mentor, Bob, not knowing that's what I wanted to do, I just wanted to work with the best. I just wanted to work with the best. So here I am, you know, in North Dakota, and I knew that Roger Penske had this largest Toyota dealership out in El Monte, California. So I seeked out all by myself to go out there and work with the guy. And documentation beats conversation is this man, I think, is one of their 15 or 16 Indianapolis 500s with 10 different drivers. So he was really, really good, Bob, at seeking out individuals that really wanted to, and had the drive and the determination to be number one. And he seeks them out and puts them in positions where they can work together. He wants to be number one as a owner. He wants to be number one as keeping his sponsors. He wants to be number one, and he wants them to be the number one driver. Now, when he got in NASCAR, it wasn't an easy road. Here's a guy that's a multimillionaire, and he started all over again. But guess what? He took Brad Keselowski and the number 2 car and made him a champion a couple years ago in NASCAR. So now this guy's got world championships everywhere. So the documentation beats conversation statement came from where I was just trying to be a part of his little entity, you know what I mean? I just felt like I needed to fit in. And he kept asking us always to basically feed in good ideas. And I shared with him an idea that I had overheard from a bunch of guys drinking with another team at a bar after the races one Sunday. And so I brought that idea back to him. And he said, that was the other saying, Bob, where it came from, where he says, listen, Robert, how do you know that? And I go, know what? He goes, how do you know the facts that you're telling me are true? And I was like, I don't know. So you heard from some guys that had a couple of drinks, and you think that's a great idea? And I mean, he really, really humbled me. And when he said documentation beats conversation, he said, Robert, don't listen to anybody. Don't listen to anybody unless you ask them if they're documented. Well, how does that relate to marketing? How does that relate to who you and I are? There's a lot of people in the world right now that say they're quote-unquote experts, but they won't show you their documentation. And now that we're doing a mentorship program that Bob and I are together and doing, you want to find out if someone has documentation of somebody that they mentored that is getting results. See, there's 3 groups of people out there. There's the posers. See, the posers are the people that are telling everybody that they know what's going on, and they love mentoring people. They love teaching people, but they don't even have any documentation. If you ask them for their own income and what they're making, it would scare you, but you're listening to those people. So now that's one group of people. Just the posers, they haven't helped anybody, nor are they making money. Now you've got the person that I would consider, let's call that person a professional for a second, a different language. Now a professional is someone that's making a full-time income in marketing. They're not doing it part-time. They're not got a full-time job or 2 part-time jobs while they're doing this. You get my point? A professional is someone that's making enough income where they're doing this full-time. That's what they do. So, you know, you look at a full-time basketball player, a professional basketball player, you know, they're making a couple $1 million a year. That's what they're doing to make their money, to build their great lifestyle. The third phrase is mentor. Now, see, there's a lot of basketball players out there that have made millions and millions of dollars by being a professional basketball player in our profession. There's people out there that make a full-time income in marketing, but they don't have a clue on how to teach somebody else how to do that. So if you ask that person very simply, before you decide to instruct me, train me, mentor me, tell me what to do, can you just do something simple for me? Whip out your cell phone, and all I want you to do is find someone on that speed dial, that contact manager you have in that fancy phone, and let me talk to somebody that is making a full-time income in marketing that you mentored, that's willing to say, hey, you know what? I was out there. I was a broke auto mechanic. I was on workman's comp. I was getting kicked out of my apartment. I was hiding the car from the repo man because I got a loan on it from a pawn shop. And I met this guy named Bill Gould that was making $62,000 a month. He worked with me and showed me a system. I followed it, and I made over $10,000 my first 45 days with him. Then guess what? I went to 258,000 that year, made 520,000 the second year, and made $1 million total before the age of 30, because I put my people in front of him, because he taught me, and he taught people that I put in front of him how to make 10,000 a month, and that's the reason I made the money that I did. So that might be a little different, a different explanation of what documentation beats conversation means.
Well, I think the average person, they're new. The average person doesn't, you know, they're excited about whatever they've just seen, and they don't think about whether it's true or not, or whether it's supported or not, and you know, it's almost like a warning that you're making, is that they've got to really dig a little deeper. Am I getting that right?
Well, absolutely, and I hear stories about this all the time, and I just want everyone to know this, watching this interview, is I've fallen into that. We're all people, and we're not perfect, and I have found myself, Bob, listening to people, getting caught up in their hype, and I don't mind sharing one with you. And Bob, you're part owner of Unlimited Profits, so you remember this. But we ran in at the beginning stages, I think this is 2002, 2003, and we ran into an individual, and I won't mention his name, but he basically said, listen, you guys designed the compensation plan. I'm your man. I'm documented. I've been doing this forever, blah, 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 blah. And me and Bob and our team paid him a lot of money to design our back office. And everything was working great until Bob and I added thousands and thousands and thousands of people. And when we did, all of a sudden the software couldn't calculate the commissions. When people don't get paid on time and don't get paid correctly, they lose belief and faith in you. And so I never asked this guy, I won't say his whole name, but his name is Barry, you know, and I never asked Barry, listen, can you give me a couple of names of people that you've already built back offices and software for? Could you give me a couple names of people that I could give a call that says the software works perfect, it prints out checks right on time, it calculates commissions on the fly? See, I never did that. That was a very, very expensive lesson for us, and it's my fault. I should have did it.
Well, wow. Okay, that's a great example, and I hadn't recalled that for a long time. But you're right. Let me ask you another question. In the industry that we're in, it's this marketing, both face-to-face and online. Why is it, in your opinion, that so many people fail to get a check? Is there more than one reason, and what can they do about it?
Yeah, you know, and statistics have shown this. I mean, I don't want to name this company, but yesterday when my wife and I got up on Today with Matt Lauer and all those guys, a company that's really exploding right now just got attacked. And you know, here was this young kid saying that this company's going after, you know, schools and colleges, and you can get new cars and drive in a Learjet. And he said, you know what, I got in and went to work, and I didn't get a new car and get a new plane. So it's got to be illegal. So they're doing an investigation right now. The FTC got other complaints, and now they're going after this company and acting like it's an illegal pyramid, but it's allocated, right? Well, it's not. It's not even close. But here's what I believe. If and where they did, Bob, is they brought up their income disclosure statement, which you can see from any company out there, and that wants to show it. See, if a company doesn't want to show it, I mean, you got instant facts immediately. But 1% of people made over $4,000 a month. Only 1%. It was less than, I think it was 0.08% of the people made over $4,000 a month. And so I know less than 1 in 10, you know, we're talking 90% of the people never receive a check in a home-based business. And let me explain to you what I believe why. The first reason is they didn't really make a commitment in a decision. See, they said the words that, Bob, that you and I have heard many, many times is, you know, I'll try this. And I love telling people, if you got a pencil or pen around, you know, while you're watching this video, you know, try to pick up a pencil. Try to pick up your mouse. You know, you either do or you don't. So the first thing is people half-heartedly Lassie Dixie or whatever you call it. Like, they really don't throw themselves into it. They don't make a commitment like you would to a job. The second thing that they do is they don't realize that they know nothing about marketing. So what they do is they try to use their ideas and concepts and thoughts and philosophies to be a marketer. Well, guess what? You don't have a clue. You don't know what you don't know. So if you're not willing to humble yourself and say that you don't know and learn from people and match and model, people that are successful, that are doing it, and don't think that you need to reinvent a wheel. Just go out and do it. The last one I think is important, Bob, is that, again, people mentally believe, like Henry Ford said, if you think you can't, you can't. If you think you can, you can't. My philosophy my whole life is, wow, if Bob Cline can do this, I can do this. So, Bob Cline, from the time that we started Unlimited Profits, you've never been out of the top 3 or 4 income earners in the company from the day we started it. So for people watching this watching this interview, they got to say to themselves, if Bob Cline can do this, if Michelle Dawson can do this, if Robert Hollis Jr. can do this, I can do this. And you got to believe that if they learn the skills to do this, you can do it. And if there's one other thing that I could add is and I haven't used this story in a long time, Bob, but it's like the concept of how you create momentum. You know what I mean? I always use the example as if your car broke down in the middle of an intersection, everyone laughs at you and everyone honks at you and calls you names until you get out and you do everything you can to try to push that vehicle. And you got to do it hard enough and focused enough and consistent enough that other people go, oh my God, he's going to try to push this car with or without me. And then all of a sudden the people that laughed at you at the sides of the street will finally go, oh my God, now I look like an idiot for not helping this guy. And they run out and start pushing. And when other people start, then everybody goes, oh, now they're helping. Now they make me look like I'm not helping. And now all of a sudden you got people that are putting their cars, in park. They're putting their flashers on and they're all getting behind you. And now all of a sudden this car starts moving fast enough where someone yells at you, Bob, get in and steer it. You know what I mean? We're all pushing you, and now you got momentum. So most people never get a check or see momentum because they won't do it long and fast and as hard as they can with the limited time that they have. So I hope that was a good explanation.
No, that's excellent, excellent. Every time, even during this interview, I learn from you. This is something that has been a wonderful part of our relationship and friendship, is that even when we're not talking business, I always pick up things in your stories. It's just I just absorb it. I just really appreciate your style. Let me ask you something more directly about you and the Success in Minutes, Unlimited Profits, the system, the company that we have now. I've noticed something different over the last few months, both in you and, of course, in the system. What is it that really makes you right now want to give so much more away than you've ever given before?
Well, what I did is exactly what I tell people to do. I don't know if some of you that are watching this interview know of a gentleman named Tony Robbins. If you Google Tony Robbins' name, the guy has a net worth of over $400 million. $400 million. Now, if you watch his audios, you listen to his audios, you watch his DVDs, you go to his live events, he constantly says this message, but no one tends to listen to it. He said, I found a mentor. Wow, have you heard that before? That mentor was Jim Rohn. And when he went to Jim Rohn, he listened to his audios. He says, I want to learn from this guy. I love this guy's philosophy and the way that he thinks. Now, God rest his soul, I got a chance to meet him personally and go to his seminars too. So once Tony Robbins figured out that that seminar was something that he wanted to go to, he went to it. You know what the thought that he had in his mind? The thought he had in his mind is everybody in the world needs to attend this kind of seminar. It will change their thinking. It will change their philosophy. It will change their belief. What ends up changing them? Instead of being a victim of everything, you now become personally responsible and you start charting your course for a better life in all areas. So Tony Robbins thought, wow, how could I go to all of Jim Rohn's events? And he didn't have any money. And so he told Jim Rohn that, hey, listen, if I promote people to come to your event and they pay for the ticket, can I get in free? And Jim Rohn says, yeah, if you get 5 people to come to the event and pay for the ticket, I'll let you in for free. Tony Robbins promoted Jim Rohn's events for 10 years. 10 years. And then he started his own. What does Jim Rohn do? Simply share his philosophy that he learned from other people. Earl Shove. So I sort of got this concept, believe it or not, by saying, listen, it's time that Robert Hollis, I'm a new grandfather for the first time. It's time for me to build my legacy. I've been blessed and wrote a book. And it's time for me to share what I know with the world. And I hung around a mentor that is made over $1 billion, you know, and it's my time. It's my time at 52 to step up and start building my legacy and really get to the point where I know the information that I share with people will make them successful and happy and just successful in all areas. And so I know for a fact that I now have the confidence and belief in myself that the material that I'm teaching will help that individual. So now it's how fast I can get it to the world. So, you know, similar to Zuckerberg starting Facebook, I know they sat around in their dorm room saying, wouldn't it be cool to get 1,000 people? Well, we've done that. And then it was cool, well, what if we could get 10,000? And in limited profits, we've done that. And then it was like, well, what about 50? We did that. Now we're over 86,000 affiliates. I know that we're going to hit 100,000, and then my goal is to hit 1 million affiliates worldwide, that we can go out there and inspire and train and mentor at any level that they want to play. If they only got a couple of hours a week, I want to inspire and help them. I know the world is coming around now where everyone's got a smartphone in their hand, and they're even giving smartphones to kids all over the world and finally getting them in touch with towers and Wi-Fi. And, you know, and I want to be one of the people on this planet that when I leave, there's going to be millions of people that I had a little small part helping them along their journey. So that's what it's all about.
Wow, thank you. One question about individuals, that back to individuals now. You know, you've mentored me for years, and you won't accept excuses from me, which is a wonderful. I love having a hard, you know, coach, a hard trainer. But you know, in the early days, I had a lot of excuses, and you used to say to me, "Listen, Bob, if that's your excuse, listen, any excuse will do."
Right.
And what I'm asking for here is, how would you counsel a person to break out of that habit of making excuses or allowing distractions? What advice can you give them? I think everybody's sort of trained that way, or maybe brought up that way, because the excuses are maybe to make themselves look better or whatever to themselves and maybe to other people, but what advice can you give them on how to deal with those excuses and distractions?
Well, everything in life, everything is habit. It's a learned skill that we learn. You know, small children learn how to crawl. They learn how to walk. They learn how to talk. We learn how to drive a vehicle. And what people don't realize is that we develop habits based by the people that we hang around and the environment that we're in. And so, you know, Bob, you and I have talked recently. You know, you've submerged yourself because of your lovely wife, Lapita, and you just love supporting her, but you immerse yourself around people that don't even know how to speak broken English. So when you surround yourself by people that know one language, that's if you want to communicate, if you want to be able to get them to understand that you need certain things and you want to build a relationship, you really have no choice but to really, really focus on trying to learn their language. Now, that's the same whether people want to believe me or not, but we all seem to get this routine where, you know, you get up in the morning, you may go to the bathroom, you brush your teeth, and we just love comfort. See, people love to be comfortable. It's one of our 6 major needs. And we need a routine. We need to be comfortable. Now, I would say don't allow your comfort to get in front of or push you away from your calling. See, so there's a lot of people that become comfortable, and no one likes to get out of their comfort zone. You know, so people say, hey, you know what? Let's all go to New Zealand. You know what I mean? Well, depending on who I'm talking about, people go, well, I don't like to fly. If I did fly, I'm not flying for 16 hours. You know, I've heard bad things about New Zealand and Australia. See, we all immediately go into the mode of justifying anything, making excuses, coming up with stuff that we heard from undocumented people, or the news or the media, CNN, constant negative news. And I remember, I'm jumping off base here a little bit, but I remember the first time I told people that I was coming to Mexico and South America to train people that wanted to learn. And what did they say? Oh my God, you're going to get kidnapped, you're going to die, you're going to get killed. You know, oh my God, did you hear the news? And it's like, all the people that I talked to, even on the airplane on my way to Bogota, Colombia, you know, and I said to the lady, I said, where are you from? And she says, well, you know, I'm from New Orleans. And I said, oh, I said, so you're going to Colombia? She said, yeah, my husband's working down there. And I said, what do they talk about? All this scary stuff that happens in Colombia. And she said, where are you from? I said, well, I'm from Orange County, California. And she said, so you got to LAX, did you take Highway 105? And I said, I sure did. Do you know enough not to pull off an exit on 105 on the way to LAX? You could end up at the wrong place really, really, really quick. And I'm not going to name any names of towns, but she says, there's places in New Orleans that I can take you where I think that are more dangerous than any place I've found in Colombia. And I said, wow, what a great way to look at it. So here's a lady that knows where the dangerous areas are in LA, around LAX, in Louisiana, and she knows where the safe areas are in Colombia. I hope you got my point there. So what we do is we have a tendency of listening to stuff outside of us. And then another thing is of course we're fearful. You know, fear, false evidence appearing real. So we always don't want to look to people as failures. What's the best way not to fail? Don't try. Don't try. If you don't try, you're not going to fail. So, you know what? So people keep saying every day, you know what? I know I got to post, and I know I got to build relationships with people online, and I know I got to pique interest, and I know I got to make those phone calls, and I know I need to talk to people when I'm out among the public. I know. I just don't. And so now we're in a position where every single day we know we're able to do it. We know that other people did it because, you know, God's not a discerner of persons, so if someone did it, they can do it. And so what we end up doing is we end up feeling a lot of guilt, a lot of shame. We build ourselves up. I think I shared a story with Bob one time where, you know, my mentor said to me, Robert, if you ask me again what else you can do right, how you can get better, I'm gonna punch you in the nose. And he said, because you never pat yourself on yourself for doing anything right. So your brain's going, why should I even attempt this? I always think that I do something wrong anyway, so even if I did contact 3 people, why didn't I contact 30? And if I contacted 30, I should have contacted 100. And if I'm making $400 a month right now, why ain't I making 800? Why am I not making $4 grand? Why ain't I making 20 grand? I think that your mind, your spirit, and your soul gets tired of you beating the crap out of yourself. You know what I mean? So you got to start patting yourself on the back by saying, hey, you know what? I got 1 pro member. You know what I mean? I got a check. I talked to a young guy today. He's 22 years old, graduated from college, doesn't have a clue what he's doing. But he was jacked out of his mind that he said, I got a check twice in a row, 2 months in a row from Unlimited Profits, and all I got to do is do exactly what I did to get those 2 checks. And so I remember my first check, which I'll never, ever forget. It was I made money doing something other than a job and being an auto mechanic. So I hope that answered. It's like we got to get into the habit, Bob, of not making excuses, not constantly saying I'm not interested. And I know we all do it. Hey, listen, we all do it, and it can be for the simplest things where, you know, hey, listen, we should go out to eat tonight. Let's go to a nice restaurant and go out to eat. And it never, ever takes just one person of the 4 or 5. And it's like, oh man, that's 20 miles from here, and we're all going to have to take a shower, and we're all going to have to put on clothes, and then once we drive there, it's going to be 20 minutes back. And then people like, the second person goes, yeah, you're right. And then my wife kicks in and goes, well, I can just make sandwiches. We can just make chili here. And it's like, before you know it, a great idea, going to a town and having a nice meal in a nice restaurant, having somebody wait on us, is us, again, not doing nothing and setting our butts at home.
I remember 2 times I've seen you do this, when you were actually on stage in front of a live audience, and you were portraying a tennis player.
Right.
And they were saying, you know, and you guys were volleying gently back and forth across the net, and they were saying, well, what if this doesn't work? And you were volley back, and I think that's what you're getting at here, is changing that mindset. Can you tell that little story?
Yeah, it's one of the things that when you're talking to somebody, and again, that's more of handling an objection. You know, there's 2 things going on when you're talking to people, either to get them to see that our mentoring system and our training and stuff, or you're getting them, once they are involved, to actually share it with others, or even getting the habit, Bob, you wouldn't believe, of course you would, because numbers are numbers don't lie, but 90% of our subscribers, 86,000 plus subscribers, there's less than 10% of the people that have gone through the 90-day training. And I've only had one person, I remember her name was Julia, and she thought right away when she looked at the first day training, she says, I think there's something messed up with my computer. And I said, what? And she said, I think one of the audio videos is 40 minutes and the other one's 1 minute and 30 seconds. So these have got to be way too little. There's something wrong. And I go, no, I don't want to burden people their first day. You know what I mean? It's like, but people can't consistently go through a daily training that might take them less than 10 minutes. They just can't make it through, which, by the way, for people that do understand unlimited profits, those are called followers. A lot of people call me and say, well, I understand what a lead is, but what's a follower? A follower is someone that starts following you through the 90-day training, okay? So, you know, the point that Bob brought up is that when I talk to people, getting them through the training, getting them to consistently sow seeds, to get a harvest by piquing people's interest and posting stuff online, is them very simply saying, you know, I said, well, listen, why don't you just check out the training? And they go, you know, I'm too busy. You know what I mean? And I go, busy doing what? You know what I mean? So I'm constantly asking them questions with their questions to just get them to think a little bit, not to debate, but get them to think a little bit about all their excuses are really excuses. They're not real. They're not real. And I always give people a situation where I tell them, and this was a mentor from my story, I mean my mentor that I haven't used in a long time. And I just want every one of you to imagine this. So what you do is I got to put it in a terminology where someone knocks on your door like Publishing Clearinghouse, right? And they knock on your door and you answer the door and they got a $4 million check there. And you're going, wow. And you start to flip out a little bit and then they go, hang on, hang on. The only way that we can do this is we got a videotape handing the $4 million check to you and you get it all. But you got to get 10 people over here. We got another problem. You only got 2 hours. So you got 2 hours to get 10 people over here that we can videotape holding balloons behind you when we give you the $4 million. If you don't get 10 people standing behind you, you don't get the $4 million. Now all of a sudden, wait a minute, I do have time. You wouldn't be asking those questions that, you know what the number one question, Bob, that we get when people ask? Is I don't know what to do first. Right. Okay, now that I'm in, I don't know what to do. You know, I promise you that Clearing Publisher House is not going to do a little quick, fast start, 4-step training with you. The clock is rolling. So you're picking up the phone and you're saying, hey, Bob, listen, I need you right now. You need to get over here. What is this? Are you coming or aren't you coming? I'll tell you when you get here. Well, tell me now. No, I'm not, and I'm not talking to you anymore. Click. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I'm not missing this 4 million. I'm putting 10 people in this. I'm going to have them in my yard. You know what I mean? If I knew I had 2 hours, I'm going to go, hey, I'd love to come right now, but you know what? I don't have any money. I don't even have enough money to put gas in my car. Great, I'm coming over. I'll come over and get you while I'm calling people to get them over there. What if there was something in it for them? See, this is where people only think about them, but they don't think about other people. And I would tell them, Bob, listen, you heard of Publishers Clearinghouse? Yeah. I'm going to get $4 million. $4 million if I can get 10 people over to my house within 2 hours. I'll tell you what, I'll give you $1,000, but if 10 people don't show, I can't give you the money. But I'll give you $1,000 if you come over, and I'll give you $500 for every person that you bring, and I'll give them $500. Now, all of a sudden, you use leverage for the first time in your life. See, me, because I understand leverage, I could make maybe 1, 2 phone calls and get those people to each drag 5 people over. See what I mean? And I wouldn't think on just 10. I want the $4 million. So you know what I'm doing? I'm calling 20, and I'm making the offer to all 20 people. So now all of a sudden, when they ask me to have 10 show up, when 70 shows up, now we get to throw a big party because I just got $4 million.
Wow. Listen, I know we have to wrap this up, and I hate to because I enjoy this and I learned and I've heard these stories, but in this case, it's been a long time since I've heard that story. But you know, you always have such a way with people and getting into their heads, and I just want to thank you for that. And really, thank you for the time you spent. I know you have huge goals of helping millions and millions and millions of people all around the world. Everywhere English is spoken, and maybe some other languages that come on board. But I just wanted to extend a personal thank you for that and the mentorship you've given me over the years, and just again tell you how much I appreciate it and what a difference it's made in my life. In so many ways. It's just very difficult for me because this is my testimonial, but I'm just definitely not the same person I was when I met you. I have people that respect me and thank me and appreciate me, and I'm not you by any means, but I've come a long way, and I give you a great deal of the credit for that. So I just wanted to give you a personal thank you, especially for the time and all the stuff you've done for me and my family over the years, Robert.
Well, thank you very much, Bob. And you and I have been, you know, best friends for years, and the stuff that I've learned from you, too. I mean, you have incredible wisdom. And, you know, you were successful in a number of different avenues before I ever met you. So, you know, I constantly lean on you for your counsel. I love your heart. Your heart for people is so incredible. And, you know, I hope that people that are watching this interview, you know, reach out to you and say, listen, you know, this sounds like something I want to be a part of. I'm not beating up other companies in any way, shape, or form, but other companies talk about what they do. And other people talk about what they do and then how they do it. But you want to get around a company that tells you why they're doing what they're doing. Right. See, if we tell you that the reason why we're doing this is to make an impact in millions of people worldwide, and inspire them to, you know, transformation, inspiration, knowledge from very successful people, that everyone that's successful believes that other people can get there because they know their journey and their path there. Now, the 99% believe they can't because they've always hung around people that haven't done it. And so you got to seek out Bob Cline in any way, shape, or form. I can tell you I can't think of another person that's going to help you. He's very knowledgeable. He's going to help you the best of your ability. And you know, me and him are talking to each other all the time. We'll be best friends until the day we die. And I just really love and appreciate you too, Mr. Cline, without a doubt.
Well, thank you so much for the compliments, Mr. Hollis. I really appreciate it. It means something very special coming from you. Thank you. God bless everyone. Appreciate you watching.
God bless. Bye-bye.